Welcome in everybody to another Escape from Tarkov video. Today we're looking at the strength versus endurance epidemic we have seen this wipe, where we see strength very high and endurance comically low. And so we're going to dive into the leveling and the numbers behind these skills, and then I'll give you 4 strategies to help your endurance keep up with strength. So let's go. So when it comes to leveling strength and endurance, the concept is really simple. In order to level endurance, you need to run or walk while you are underweight, and for strength, you need to run or walk, amongst other things, while you're overweight. And to take that a step further, I'm sure you've noticed either the blue or the red arrows next to these skills when you're in raid. What these mean, essentially, the blue arrow means you're gaining 129% skill progression. No arrow means you're getting 100, which I never really see. And the red arrow means you're getting only 50% half skill progression while that is active. And these make a tremendous difference when you're trying to level these skills. And let's actually go into raid, and I'm going to show you with the numbers what this actually looks like. So you can see we're here, 0 strength, 0 endurance, a fresh character, and we are underweight. And let's run a full bar with that blue arrow to see exactly how much experience points we get. As you can see, for that one, we got 3.8, and we are now currently in the red arrow. Let's run another bar to see where we stand with that. So while we had that red bar, we only got 1.2 progression towards our skill base. And, you know, you can kind of extrapolate that out, what that would look like in a full raid. Let's say conservatively you run 5 bars in a raid with that first 3.8 and then 1.2 after. You're going to get approximately 8.6 progression towards your endurance, assuming you are underweight the whole raid, which this wipe has been a near impossibility. But before we talk about that problem, let's look at what it looks like for strength in the same situation. So here we are again, 0 endurance, 0 strength, and we are overweight. We're going to run a full bar here, and let's see what that looks like. As you can see, we got 3.7, almost the same exact as the endurance. We're now in the red arrow. Let's see what that looks like. So again, we approximately got 1.2. So it's pretty much the same with the strength and endurance in terms of the gain. And because of how easy it is to be overweight this wipe, strength has been significantly easier to be running multiple bars of these throughout your raids. And it's why strength has incredibly outpaced endurance. But again, before fully getting into that, let's bust 2 myths. The first myth is that the blue arrow bonus applies to your entire sprint bar, and therefore you need to be sprinting the full bar the entire time. That used to actually be the case, and it looks like it's still the case because the way the endurance experience is added, it only applies once you're done sprinting and you've lifted up your gun. But Tarkov has at some point patched this where you're gaining the correct amount of experience. You know, once you hit that plateau, it will drop down and you'll no longer be getting that 129% experience, even though you're still running and you haven't stopped in the same bar. Just to show that, we saw how much we got for the 1 full bar. I'm now going to show you with half a bar, stop, half a bar. And as you can see, we got 3.7, you know, essentially the same as the 3.8. And again, kind of just busting that myth. What matters is distance sprinted. Now, kind of the second myth, which ties into that, is that the SJ6 Labs is the end-all be-all for endurance training. And back in the day where that full bar was applied for that blue arrow, that was the case. Because it no longer is, well, you're still going to get more experience from running a full bar with the SJ Labs just because you're running further. It's not going to be increasing the amount of that blue arrow bonus you're getting. And therefore, unless you're impatient or you're super rich in Tarkov, the SJ6 Labs, while good, isn't, you know, this incredible solution to endurance. So now on to the problem that we've seen this wipe, and that is that in order to be overweight going into a raid, the threshold is incredibly low. We can see with our 0 strength character, at 21 we're underweight. Right at 21.1 we are now overweight, and that is not much equipment at all. It's very easy to go into these raids already overweight, and once you're in raid, you know, you pick up 1 or 2 pieces of loot and you're overweight easily. And so this has made it incredibly hard to level endurance. So the first strategy for leveling your endurance is to go in underweight. And again, this might seem obvious, but Given how low the cap is to be overweight, it actually takes a little bit of thinking in order to be able to run a kit that is actually underweight. So what I'm showing here is one of my favorite kits, actually, in order to be running underweight. You can see we're at 20.7. We have a nicely modded weapon with the UMP 45, one of the lighter weapons out there, although the bullets are kind of heavy. We've got a couple of extra mags, tier 4 rig, nice backpack. We've got our meds, helmet, as well as earpiece, and we are underweight. So this is a pre-built kit that I like to run, but I'm actually going to let's dive into kind of the thought process behind building some of these and what else you can actually be using. So when it comes to building your kit in order to make sure you're underweight, the first thing you have to consider is your armor, as it is going to take up the largest percentage of the weight that you're going to allocate to your gear. And when we're looking at some of the armored rigs, you know, there are some that are just not viable if you're trying to level endurance. You know, the Uli armored rig, which is one of the earlier ones you can get, is 12.2 kgs. That's approximately 60% of your total weight capacity, and it's not viable. If you are looking for a couple of early ones to run that are actually underweight, the Uli armored rig, which you can get from Ragman at level 1, is only 7.1 kgs. That's nice. You know, it's only 33% of your weight. The one that you saw me using out there is a bit heavier, the reliable potato sack, one of my favorites, at 9.2. That's approaching a little heavy, but it is still, you know, well within the realm of possibilities. The other ones that I like to go for, the MMAC, one of the most popular. I know it only defends the thorax, but again, a tier 4 armor, good storage, only 7.2, and a little bit harder to get, but the Strandenhog, so sorry if I butchered that, it's only 6.5, again, level 4, decent amount of storage. But if you're looking for the armored rig, I would recommend those. Really, once you start to get higher than that, they're either harder to get, more expensive, or they just weigh too much. Now, personally, I prefer, when I'm doing this, to go in with an unarmored rig and an armored chest piece. And that's because the unarmored rigs are incredibly light. Now, assuming we're going to ignore the idea rig bag at only 0.22 kgs, just because you don't want to look like a blueberry out there, you know, there's some really nice options, some cheap options that you can get early on. You know, the security vest, the CSA chest rig, the micro rig, Thunderbolt, if you want to hunt some rogues and get this. But as you can see, a lot of these vests are under 1 kg. And again, I'll post this link so everyone can see this and can, you know, sort by whichever ones they want. But then when we move over to the armored vest to pair with it, if you are new or you are broke or you don't want to spend too much money while you're leveling endurance, the P.A.K.A. armor, which, you know, isn't going to give you too much protection, but it will help prevent against some, you know, easy one-taps to the chest, is only 3.5 kgs. Moving up, I personally don't use it, but the Zuck Tier 3, little bit more protection at only 5.2 kgs. Again, you pair that with, you know, an armored rig that's 1 or less, and you're still running pretty light. The one that I personally like to use is the Trooper armor, Tier 4, 85 durability. Really love this piece of armor, even though it's a thorax only, and it is only 6.8 kg. Again, pair that with a 1 kg unarmored rig, and, you know, you're even sitting below what that potato vest was. We're able to put that full loadout in. So those are some options when it comes to armor, and those are going to be your biggest considerations when you're putting together this kit. So typically when you're picking a weapon, you can logically think which ones are going to weigh the least. You know, all of your pistols, if you want to do a pistol run, those are going to run you under 1 kg, and really you don't have to worry about anything else if you pick a pistol. Then when you move over into the submachine guns like the UMP, you still have a lot of really cheap options. If you don't like the UMP, the Keter is another super cheap option that I have a ton of fun with in the early game. So once you move up into the rifle class, that's really when the weight starts to add up for a lot of these guns, particularly when you're adding those attachments. But there's still some nice ones out there you can find that are going to be pretty light. The AK-74U is only 2.69, which is, you know, relatively underweight compared to the AKM, which is almost 3.5. So again, going back to the kit that I like to run the most, I use the day pack here, and when it comes to backpacks, they can get incredibly heavy incredibly quickly. The day pack actually is super light at 0.672, and when you compare that to some of its same size counterparts. You know, we can see the Wartech bag is almost 1 kg. The day pack really going to offer you the best combination of space and size. But again, depending on what else you're running, you can get a bigger bag if that's what you're looking for. So in addition to armor and weapons, obviously you're probably going to want a helmet, which honestly you don't have to, given how they don't often protect you. But if you're looking for 2 light options, ones that you can get from Ragman super early on, obviously the classic penis helmet, level 3, is only 1.5 kgs. But given that 21 is not a high threshold to hit, the LSHZ, which is honestly almost double the price, but it is sitting at just 0.95 kgs. So if you're really looking to pinch and save that little bit of weight, moving up to that light helmet, it can help you. But some of the helmets, obviously, you're going to get incredibly heavy. My favorite helmet to run, the Ulak, is going to run you almost 2 kgs. Again, doable depending on what else you have in your kit. But when it comes to picking the right one, every kg counts. The second method is the I refuse to not be a Chad. Let's say you don't want to run in underweight. You're going to come in with your best gear. You're going to be overweight every time, but you still want to level endurance. Well, you can still do that. As we saw earlier, running with the blue arrow active is really going to give you outsized returns when it comes to leveling these skills. And so what you can do with all of your gear, whether it's at the beginning of the raid if you don't have anywhere to be immediately, or at some point in the raid if you feel safe, just plop all of your gear into your bag, drop it somewhere safe, and run a full bar. As we could see, you know, with that blue arrow, you're getting almost 3.8 for that initial bar. And so if you just do that once a raid, or even, you know, you run and then run back and get 5 total for the 2 bars, well, you're going to be able to progress that skill pretty quick, and you're going to still be able to run the gear you want. The third strategy is the naked ram strategy, and this is how I've been leveling my endurance to keep it apace with my strength. And it's really just finding a reason to run into raids pretty much naked. For me, I love to rogue farm, as I'm sure you can tell by my other videos. And so running in there with a VPO and just enough gear to not be cursed and tagged. Well, obviously I'm coming in underweight. Lighthouse is such a large map that I'm getting multiple bars in before I'm overweight. One of the easiest ways to do it. The other way to run in naked is if you're doing 0 to hero runs. Obviously, for me, one of the raids I enjoy the most. But finding a way to run into raid naked is both fun and very rewarding from an endurance leveling standpoint. The fourth strategy is the I have too much money and I don't know what to do with it. Now, like method 2, if you want to run into these raids fully geared, not caring about being overweight, but still want to level endurance, you can, assuming you have a ton of money. Because you can go to the flea market, buy a mule stem for approximately 100,000 ruples, and go into raid and pop it. As we can see here, we start off the raid overweight, pop the mule stem, it kicks us to underweight, and now we can level our endurance for the duration of that. And what's great about that is you can use it at the beginning of the raid, at the end of the raid, at any time you want, pop the mule stem, and you're good to go. Of course, this is an expensive habit, so not the best if you are struggling with money. But hopefully everyone now can level their endurance and start zooming around the map to their heart's content. But thank you everyone so much for watching, and we hope to see you on our next video or live on stream.